Okay, hi. So I'm Deborah Delman, Executive Coordinator of the Transformation Center. We used to be called Empower. And I want to note that Helen Cheltenham from the Empower Board of Directors was unable to attend. Her bio is in this, in this brief bio, speakers bios, whatever that is. But anyway, actually, I want to do an aside comment for a second here and say that I know Barry, Ellen, and Susan, you just had a day to prepare, and that's because you're professionals. If you had known a month ago, you would have prepared a month ago.
It would have been worse.
I myself knew this about a month or 2 months ago, and I just prepared today, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I'm always running around chasing after this or that kind of goal and like thinking that, oh yeah, I'll get to that next time. And the truth is that I hate to speak, and I try to have other people get up there in front. In any event, I just want to say that I was really wanting for the Empower perspective to be present in this moment because of my first engagement with Empower as a moving part of my own recovery story. In fact, my engagement with Empower, I didn't have recovery before. A peer group could talk about rights, could talk about dignity in a way that reached me so deeply by saying, I was one of those people who's like, oh yeah, you should have that, or you should have your rights. And I was really interested in political activism, economic issues, and an activist in college. But for myself, I couldn't see it for myself until I heard my own peers day after day in various activist meetings talking about dignity, respect, and I'd say, yes, yes, you deserve that. And it reflected back inside my own heart and broke me open to my own possibilities and my own connections with a personal recovery journey. So Empower has been extremely important to me. There's a number of Empower members and leaders that are in this room right now, and consumer movement activists, and Pat Deegan was there before Empower was even named. There was a sponsoring committee called the Empowerment Sponsoring Committee, which Pat and Judy Chamberlain and Reva Stein was part of organizing that. A lot of folks involved. Also, Empower board members here today are Ruthie Poole and Nikki Glasser. And can't miss out on Steve Holochuk there in the movement way before most of us were in the 70s. So thank you. And let's see, what did I want to say? This topic is called the consumer perspective, and as we all know, there is no one consumer perspective. That's what we're all about today. And I think that, oh boy. Are you nervous?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, it must not be me, it must be you that's nervous. I know, I'm fine. I wanted to make 2 points about what we have as opportunities in this afternoon. Thank you to Marcia Webster from the Transformation Center and the Transformation Center policy team for inviting a lot of the folks with lived experience in this room, and the possibilities that we have in terms of recognizing that there is no one consumer perspective is to also connect with the multiple cultures that we are not able to connect with. I just left a leadership academy that we offered completely in Spanish. It was provided by and for Spanish speakers. There were over 30 leaders. Thank you, MBHP, for funding that. In the fall, we'll be hosting another leadership academy by and for African descent folks with lived experience of mental health issues. And the opportunity we have in thinking about the fact that there's no one consumer perspective is in our discussion groups at each table when we're addressing the complex policy issues that we have on our plate, that we keep alive that reality as well, that the solutions we're looking for are solutions that are going to work for the many facets of our community. And I know we don't have a specific topic listed about that, like how are we going to address these issues with people whose first language is not English and who in fact do not speak English well, for example. I know for myself, when I was in high school, I came from a middle-class, privileged background in a fairly privileged community, Wakefield, Massachusetts, almost all white. The class issues present in Wakefield were quite stark. It was pretty much the descendants of England versus the descendants of Ireland and Sicily in Wakefield, and I was a descendant of people from England, and in fact my aunt, who also grew up in Wakefield, did in fact say tomato, and my grandfather was the first and only college graduate in his family, and he was extremely proud of that and infused my family with arrogance. We're better than those working class elements of our own family. We never socialized with the folks that were working class. In fact, I didn't spend any time with my cousins who lived in the very same town until I was an adult. And when I was in high school, I started to fall apart in my sophomore year, and I had been doing very well in school, all the advanced placement classes, and I fell apart, and people didn't really notice it. For me, they kind of pushed me along and put me in advanced placement classes in my junior and senior years, even though I was skipping school a lot, not showing up, depression, anxiety, all this stuff. And finally, to ensure that I would graduate, they put me in an English class that was the very, you just come a couple of times a week and you'll pass. And my guidance counselor pushed me on through to the University of Maine, and I did go to college. But in that class, that was the first place that I really confronted class issues in my own town. I was sitting next to people that had always been kind of jokers to me, these kind of vibrant people that weren't doing well in school and were sort of trapped for vocational stuff elsewhere. And I just saw people that were suffering like me, and I saw people that were every bit as smart and ready for all kinds of roles in the community. But those people, if they were from Sicilian and Irish backgrounds, were not headed for college and were not assumed to go there. So it's something that we have to be thinking about in our own mental health system, and how we're seeing the possibilities with people. Who are we seeing possibility in? And I just encourage us to think about that in our small groups. And the second thing I want to say is that that I went out there to look at who signed up for what groups. I was kind of interested, and the two groups that got the least signups were clinical guidelines. Yeah. Who wants to know that?
He didn't see the complete list.
Oh, okay. Okay. What?
So it drives it.
Yeah. And also, Naomi just said that's what drives the clinical guidelines, yeah. And also the role of peer support, there's a tiny bit of signups for that. And I think, I look around in this group and I see people that are incredible allies to this whole movement of working together and shared, system development. And so I know that people care about that in this room very much. And so I think I just want to encourage that these are strategies, clinical guidelines and peer support, in everything that we're talking about. And that's another element to be thinking about at the tables as we move forward together.